Hey y'all, this is Amanda and welcome back to my Texas Zone 8A garden. And today we're going to be talking about all things marigold. We're going to be talking about the benefits of marigold, information and background about marigolds, the varieties that I'm going to be starting, and then I'm actually going to get those all started by seed today. Okay, so marigold is a flower that I really started discovering last year. I grew it was a mission giant yellow marigold, and I became obsessed with it. I absolutely loved it. And so now it's kind of opened up this whole door to a bunch of other varieties of marigolds. So I'm really excited to really jump in deeply with marigolds this season. Now, marigolds are available in a wide variety of colors, anywhere from like a creamy white, pale yellows, vibrant yellows, vibrant oranges, dark oranges. They're also available in a wide variety of sizes, anywhere from 6 inches tall up to 3 to 4 feet. There are 3 main varieties of marigolds. So I'm going to go through each of those varieties and talk to you about which marigolds are in each of those varieties and basically the characteristics of each of those varieties. And because y'all know I'm terrible at pronunciation, I'll put the names below. Okay, so the first one is called Tagates erecta. And that includes African American and Mexican marigolds, all those varieties within it. These are the very tall, erect marigolds, anywhere from like 2 to 4 feet tall. These are excellent for cutting, and they tend to have really large bloom heads. These are native to Mexico and Central America, and they are known for being very drought tolerant. The next variety is Tagates petula. Am I saying it right? Petula. And that includes all the French marigolds that you might see. Now, French marigolds are much shorter, and they are known for really handling locations that have more rainy conditions because they tend to be a little bit more disease resistant. They're smaller, bushier, more compact, and they tend to be about 6 inches to about 2 feet in height. Their blooms are also much more delicate, small. I think they look like lacy, almost doily looking. They're absolutely beautiful. And then the last variety is Tagates tenuifolia, and that tends to be signet marigold. So these are much smaller, much more petite, under 12 inches in height, and these are really great for border kind of designs within your garden. This particular variety really loves hot, dry areas as well, and they really kind of do better within those situations. So that's not a variety you would use in a rainier condition. So why am I going through these 3 varieties? I mean, why am I putting up all the, fancy scientific terms for each of them? Well, each of them have different characteristics that benefit different gardeners. Such as me, I like to grow cut flowers, so the erecta particular variety is what I need to grow because those are taller, straighter, sturdier stems with larger blooms. That's going to be ideal for cut flowers. However, you might be in a zone that is a much rainier and you would like to grow some marigolds. Well, then you probably want to go for the petula variety, because that's going to be all your French marigolds, which like rainier conditions. So there is something to consider when you are looking at marigolds for either growing from seed or purchasing within your local nursery. You want to be checking to see if that particular variety of marigold is appropriate for your particular zone. Now, marigolds are often confused with calendula, and calendula is not a true marigold. Calendulas are edible. And so there can be some confusion of whether marigolds are edible. I highly suggest that you do not put anything in your body without extensive research. I am fine eating calendulas because I know all of those are edible. I know that some marigolds are edible, but I'm not familiar enough with which ones are, so I do not eat any marigolds. Okay, let's talk about some more characteristics of marigolds. The number one thing I hear from other gardeners about why they do not grow marigolds is because they don't like the scent. Knowing the varieties that we just talked about before, it's the American and the French that have a really strong smell. So if you can choose one of the other varieties, like the signet, the Mexican, or the African marigolds, their scents are not nearly as strong as others. One of the great things about marigolds, especially for my area, is they do wonderful in hot hot summers, and they do thrive in the, the heat of the summer when things are at their worst. They are actually at their best. They do prefer like a moderately fertile soil, and they do need good drainage. They don't want to sit their roots in water. So that's something to consider when you're finding a location for them. I have mine set up on drip, which tends to work really, really well. I do find that in the hottest parts of the summer, they do need supplemental water to limp them through. Now, they don't need much fertilization after they've been planted. I prefer to add something like a slow release fertilizer when I'm planting them, such as plant tone or flower tone. And then after that, I don't apply any kind of liquid soluble or water soluble fertilizer. They just really don't need it. And truthfully, if marigolds get too much nitrogen, they focus on the greenery and the foliage, and they produce less blooms. Now, marigolds are prone to a couple of different things. One of the most common is powdery mildew, and the easiest way to combat that is to make sure that your plants are spaced out enough that they have some really great airflow, and make sure that you're watering your marigolds at the base. Do not water from above. When the water sits on the leaves, that's when you get more of an increase of potential powdery mildew. If you plant marigolds in shady or cool areas, they're much less likely to bloom. So if you're having trouble getting your marigolds to bloom, that might be something you need to do. Move the marigolds to a different area of your yard that gets full sun, minimum 6 to 8 hours a day. I've also dealt with a lot of spider mites on my marigolds, and what I have ended up doing is this last season I planted out all my seedlings, and I immediately treated for spider mites, and then I treated again a couple of weeks later, and that really helped to temper any of the issues that I was dealing with in the past. I also think that a lot of times marigolds are utilized as a trap crop, and so they are something you plant that will bring all the spider mites to them and potentially keep the spider mites away from other plants. However, I don't grow them as a trap crop, so I do work hard to make sure that the spider mites do not overwhelm them. Now, pruning your marigolds is very easy. You can just cut your stems, go down the stem, cut the stem directly above a set of 2 leaves, and doing that will give you that bloom that you cut, but it will also produce 2 new branches from where those 2 leaves meet. And that'll give you bushier plants and more blooms along the way. Now, marigolds also aren't required to have deadheading. However, I prefer to deadhead them because I think that keeps them blooming longer. If it's not something you're interested in, you certainly don't need to do that. The 3 varieties that I went over earlier can cause some mild skin irritation. So if you have sensitive skin or if you're unfamiliar with marigolds, I highly suggest utilizing gloves or long sleeves when you're working with them, just to make sure that you're not getting any of the sap on your skin. It's never caused me any problems, but that doesn't mean that it might not cause you issues. So make sure you are safe when you're handling your marigolds. Now, some fun things about marigolds. They are super easy to harvest seeds from. Literally, you let the bloom dry brown on the plant, and then you pull it off, and then in like the base of it, you open it up, and it's tons and tons of seeds. So once you start marigolds, you shouldn't have to buy seeds again. You can just go ahead and harvest those seeds at the end of each season. Marigolds also make excellent dried flowers. I have not dried any yet, so if you have dried marigolds, let us know how they turned out for you, but they're supposed to be excellent for dried flowers or potpourri, anything like that that you might be interested in creating. Marigolds are also known as companion plants. Now, the best variety for marigolds as a companion plant is the French marigold. And what the French marigolds do is they basically repel harmful like nematodes or like destructive like worms and stuff in your soil. Basically, you plant them around the base of your plants, and you should plant a lot, not just a few. And basically, the roots go in and they repel anything in the soil that might damage the roots of your vegetables. Okay, so we got through a lot of that detailed information, and I do just want to make sure that you guys all take notes, and I'm going to put a slide up right after this of each of the 3 varieties. Go ahead and take a screenshot, take a photo with your phone, and make sure you have those on hand for the next time you're shopping for marigolds, because it can make all the difference when selecting the correct marigold for your garden. Okay, now let's get to some fun part. Let's look through all of the varieties that I am about to start right now for my garden. Okay, so marigolds can actually be planted in succession, and they're not really a quote unquote cut and come again flower for me. I might get a little bit more growth, but once you cut that initial first large flower, everything else is a little bit smaller, which is fine because I still like the smaller ones. But if you want to have marigolds throughout the entire season, you want to go ahead and start them about every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how frequently you're looking at harvesting. I tend to just start in 2 groups. So I'll start a group now, and then I'll start another group potentially probably at the end of July, beginning of August, so that I have some really great blooms going into October and November, which is my fall, and that's when I really love to have those beautiful colors of marigolds. Okay, I'm going to be growing the Mission Giant Yellow Marigold again. I had a lot of success with them. I love the bright, bold yellow color, so I definitely want to try them again. They're about 65 days to bloom, and they're about 2 to 3 feet tall. Another variety that I tried last year, and I started it much earlier in the spring, and it succumbed to spider mites. And so what I ended up doing is starting my marigolds more at the beginning of the summer, and I had way better luck with them. So one variety that I'm going to try again is called Starfire Mix, and it is the tenuifolia. So that particular variety is the Signet Marigold. I should have told you this one too. It's not listed. So this is a Signet Marigold. It's about less than 12 inches. However, I found that mine were a little bit taller. This is estimated 24 to 30 inches in height. So these were great as cut flowers. I'll put a picture up so you guys can see what they look like. These are about 90 days to maturity. And these last 4 varieties are part of the Tagades or Tages erecta. So these are the ones that are grown as cut flowers. So these are going to be minimum 2 to 3 feet tall, nice, erect, strong stems, and they're going to have much larger blooms on top. The first one is Orange Hawaii, and I got a lot of these from Baker Creek. They had a wide variety of marigolds to select from. Their flowers are about 4 inches across, so a nice big large flower. They don't have the amount of days to when it blooms, so I'll have to look that up and drop that below. But these should be really fun. They're a nice, bold, beautiful orange. The next variety is called Sugar and Spice. And when I said, earlier in the spring that I bought these seeds to try them, a lot of people said they had some issues with sugar and spice. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. These are about 50 to 65 days till bloom, and their blooms are about 2 inches across, and their plants are only about 16 inches tall. So these are a little bit of a more shorter variety, but still great for cut flowers. So the next variety is called Kilimanjaro White Marigold, and once again, this is another variety that people said they had issues with. It sounds like the white marigolds are a little bit harder to grow, and these are have 2-inch blooms at the top. It doesn't say the height on this particular packaging, so I'll drop that information below, but I am excited about trying these out. Now, anytime I talk about white with the marigolds, it's not a true white. It's more of a buttery, kind of creamy white. And then the last variety, which I'm super excited about, is called Spun Orange. And this guy, the plants are about 20 inches tall. They're supposed to be nice, big, beautiful blooms. In here, you can see it's got a quarter, so it's about 3 to 4 quarters across, which is anywhere about 3 to 4 inches across. And I actually thought these looked a little bit like dahlias, so I was really excited to try them out. Now, adding a lot of orange and yellow to my garden is a little bit different for me. I don't tend to have a lot of those colors, but that has been one of my big goals this year, adding more warm tones throughout my garden. So I'm really excited for these because they will start producing towards the end of the summer and into the fall, which is a time of year where I'm really wanting to focus on a lot of those warm tones anyway for the beautiful fall weather. Okay, so I'm going to be starting all my marigolds inside. You can absolutely direct sow outside. I do feel that the seeds are so small that it does tend to be a little bit harder to direct sow them outside. Also, it's just really hot for me right now, and it's really hard to keep the seeds consistently moist outside. It's much easier for me to start them inside, grow seedlings, and then move them out into my garden. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get all these seeds planted, and then I'll talk about the process of getting them started inside.
The time of God, it is just enough to get by.
All right, Joelle, so I have them all planted up. I started them in my Amazon containers that I got my seedling starts. They come with a plastic insert and it has 12 seed cells, and then it has holes on the bottom. It comes with the base like that. It also comes with the top up here that has for the humidity dome, which is really great. And then it also comes with a couple of tools, including a dauber, a little scoop, and then this kind of little spatula situation to help you get your seedlings out. So far I've had really great luck with them. I've used them multiple times. They've held up really nice and they have a strong plastic to them. If you're interested, I'll drop those in the description, my Amazon storefront. There'll be a link down there. You can check them out. Now, let's move on to the next part. I've got all of these planted. I started with the soil that I have been utilizing for my containers. It's called BM7. It's fine grain enough that I think it'll be fine for seeds. I remove any large pieces that might impede the seedlings. I started with it dried, filled everything up. Then I went ahead and placed the seeds in, and then I went back with a layer of soil on the top, a dusting, a light layer of soil. They are about 1/4 of an inch deep. And then once I did that, I poured the water directly into the green trays, and then I set the seed cell in it. And basically the water soaks up, and I can also already see it coming through the top of all of these. I have started doing that process because it's just easier and not as messy. So it works really well for me. So at this point, marigold seeds want to be ideally about 75 to 80 degrees to sprout, and that's a little bit warmer. So if you are starting them inside, I highly suggest starting them on heat mats, just because that's going to have a warmer start for them. So we are going to make sure that each of them has a humidity dome. So I've got my humidity dome here, and you're going to make sure that the humidity dome is closed up. Mine has this little insert that pops in on the top. You're going to make sure that they're closed, and then you're going to put the humidity dome on like this. You're going to leave the humidity dome on until about 60% of the seeds have sprouted and come up. At that point, you'll remove the humidity dome and you're done with it for the rest of growing these particular seeds. You don't want to leave the humidity dome on too long because it can cause damping off, a lot of fungus, all that kind of good stuff. So you need it to have some good air supply once they've all started sprouting. Now, these all take anywhere from 3 to 10 days to sprout, typically more in the 5 to 7 day range, which is what I found for my particular house. Everybody's house is different, so it kind of just depends. And so that'll work really good. I started 12 of each of the varieties. I like to start all one variety in each container. It's just easier for me to make sure that I'm giving everyone each the unique space that they need. Okay, now that they all have humidity domes, I'm going to go ahead and move them and get them set up under the grow lights behind me with heat mats. Okay, so they're all set up under my grow lights. They will be under the grow lights about 14 hours a day. And these are actually my zinnias, who I started all yesterday. And then here's the marigolds all set up there, looking really good. You can see that the water's already come to the surface. The soil has turned dark. You can see like it's lighter there, but it's coming up. So that works really well. It only takes a few minutes for the soil to soak all the water up and all the way through. So like I said, these will be under the grow lights 14 hours a day, and they should sprout anywhere from 3 to 10 days. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, learning all about marigolds, and I hope that it's something that you guys will check out, whether you decide to grow by seed or whether you decide to purchase straight from your local nursery. Either one's a good chance. I feel like marigolds kind of get a bad rap as being a little bit boring or too traditional, but there are some very cool varieties that can do a lot of cool things within your garden. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when my latest videos are up. I do not post on any particular schedule. So if you do want to know my videos and you don't want to miss any, make sure you hit that little notification bell so that you will get an announcement once it comes out. And also make sure you check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's a mad gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all. But still I am here, moving on like before. I'm yearning to reach
Now I